deep into a sun-dappled forest in the south. Small things grow. Delicate though they might be, their stomachs are strong. They feast on the rot. Through rain and storm, they eat. Though Herreras watch them from the trees, they pay no mind. They follow their noses. They follow the scents of the next meal. And they grow. Today, I'm playing the Cerado. Yeah, again. But I have an interesting story for you. One of hardship and perseverance, and one of loss. But for now, let's stay focused on the present. I spotted this small Cerado screaming in the distance. We soon found out why. A small, tree-dwelling rat had threatened its peace. Kiwi put an end to it, and we fed its corpse to its prey. The smaller Sarah joined us, and now we were 3. 3 hungry Cerados need one thing, and that's food. I was enjoying my hunt until I became the hunted. A pair of Mayas had decided to come and mark their territory. They decided they didn't want any small Sarahs growing up in their vicinity. But we don't give up round here. I put my head down and decided it was time to dodge and weave. I was feeling successful, but overconfidence serves no one. The Maya pushed me over, but thankfully missed their stomp, and I was able to escape for a second time. You might be thinking, good job, you escaped. Yeah, no. At last, distance was put between me and the herbivore, but my smaller companion wasn't as lucky, and I had no idea where Kiwi was. So I spent a good long time hiding in this bush before Kiwi made themselves known once again. And the body of our former teammate? Well, let's just say it wasn't put to waste. For the jungle, things were peaceful once more. We ate the scraps, the other creatures that hadn't been as lucky to escape, that hadn't been as light on their feet, or as quick with their turns. Survival really is of the fittest. 2 became 3 when we found another Cerado of similar size. The 3 of us slunk through the fog, waiting for it to pass, hoping to hunt smaller creatures, and being nervous to step out into the open. As the fog became heavier, we ventured onto the beach. But there was nothing. No food to be found. Day turned to night, and our stomachs were growing empty. We were too scared to go to South Plains. Too small, too slow. And our noses drew us dangerously close to the ocean. The chance of an easy meal was too tempting. And so we lined up on the beach to discuss our next moves. I would have gone, but Irish bravely volunteered first. Kiwi and I hung back, watching, waiting. As Irish swam deeper into the ocean, all for now seemed fine. Dawn light was slowly turning the sky to yellow, almost as a sign of hope. But there was an ominous red tint to the morning rays. Irish seemed to be going for the lion's diet. The S seemed closer, and so I decided to swim out towards it. Apparently it wasn't floating, but maybe if I got close enough, it might eventually rise to the surface. Sometimes body drops are kinda strange like that, and they'll stick to the floor for a little while. And then occasionally they'll just pop back up. The sun was into the sky now. But was it red or gold? Was it promising danger or a meal? I circled like a shark, gazing down at the food below, willing it to float. But we weren't the only ones hungry. With my stamina draining, I decided to return to the shore for now. On the other hand, Kiwi decided to swim on, in hopes of finding the lion's diet that Irish was unable to pick up. We were unaware that danger lurked. It was pure chance that I had decided to swim back to the shore. Though I was still swimming, those who were standing weren't much safer. As I looked back towards my companions, I saw Irish's name tag moving deeper into the water, having no idea my companions were fighting for their lives. Just like that, Irish was taken from this world, and Kiwi's life now hung in the balance. Unfortunately, there was nothing that could be done. Kiwi had gotten stuck in a stone that was underwater. Though the dino couldn't reach them, there was no way to escape, no place to sit to regain their stamina. And just like that, I was now alone on the beach. I couldn't give up. I had to find food. I had to go. Though there was one that wasn't going hungry. Damn sea dino. And it turns out, Irish had spawned close by. Now reunited, I felt an instant sense of motherly instinct. If this Sarah was going to stick by me, I would have to look after them, watch out for them, and feed them. And so, it was time to do what I should have done in the beginning, and venture into South Plains. Immediately, I was rewarded with a delicious baby trike. My new responsibilities in mind, I turned around to give it to Irish. But it was too late. In the moment I had looked away, a Ceratosaurus had eaten them. Despair in my heart, I immediately decided the body couldn't go to waste. My stomach was dangerously low, and I could feel a storm brewing. I needed my strength up for what lay ahead. There was no way I was letting that slide. At first, I circled this tree looking for the bones that I had smelt a moment before, but unfortunately they rolled down the hill and I couldn't pick them up. And then I saw it. And I was going to meet it head on. After landing a few good bites, I instantly turned to the wall for safety. Fighting a pair, I would need my back to be covered. Once the smaller one backed off, I was able to use this tree as cover. Despite landing almost every hit, I was already suffering damages. But the tree was working to my advantage to stop a full attack, and I made sure to run towards the Kano in order to shorten the distance of the charge. As he puked, I realized there were now 3. This wasn't good. Every time he slid to a stop, I was there to bite him. Sometimes more than once. Again, I landed 2 more hits, and this time, he didn't turn back. But I still felt inclined to avoid the open, to stick to the trees. There was still a younger one with him, and the third was fresh. This wasn't something I was gonna win, and so I turned and tried to flee. At first I thought this rocky outcropping might be a good spot to sit. But as they circled back, I got nervous. I didn't want to be caught there on the ledge, so I decided it was time to leave, properly. I felt panicked, as if they were hunting me. I almost slipped off the ledge, and then I got scared as another small creature ran towards me. Out of instinct, I almost bit him, but decided to let him live. But as he kept following, I realized I couldn't afford to let his two calls and the sound of our conversation lure in any creatures, so I put him down. I had no more room for motherly instinct. All that was left was fear. Like a wounded dog, I snuck away. I didn't want my footsteps to be left behind, and I didn't want to be heard. I simply left. And after healing, I thought, maybe I should go to swamp. But that's when I heard it. The battle sounds of a decently sized Sarah. If they were going through what I had, I needed to help them. Maybe together we could finish this. And maybe I wouldn't have to be alone. As the roars drew louder, I added my own voice. Immediately, I felt my confidence returning. I wouldn't have to fight alone anymore. And he clearly felt the same, because we joined immediately, united by a common enemy. And though no words passed between us, I felt immediate loyalty. I stepped in front to guard him while he healed his bleed. Neither of us were too badly hurt, though we still bore scars. My plan to flee to the swamp was immediately forgotten. It was time to prowl the plains. There were many small corpses to feed on, and just as many small scavengers to chase off. For now, we felt like kings, ruling this patch of land and chasing off all the small creatures that wandered by. And wander by they were determined to do. The young Kanos in the area seemed very persistent. They were determined to try and sneak a bite on one of us or on our food. The more serious threats were the larger herbivores, though this adult trike seemed to not really care. We just slowly walked out of its way, and it slowly, very, very slowly, walked on by. Soon, however, the tenno from before came back. My audio kind of cut off at the beginning, but you didn't miss much. My new friend didn't last very long. After tanking a couple hits, that last kick knocked him. My time in the sun was short, and now again I was alone. I couldn't believe it. I had felt such strong loyalty, like we could fight anything together. And after just one moment, his life was taken. I was already yellow. It wasn't too smart to try and fight this tenno. But if it wanted more, I would hand it over gladly. From the movement I'd seen before, it was mostly a tail spammer. That works for me. During all this commotion, I was beginning to get really fed up with these Kanos. They were too small to charge much of anything, yet they kept trying, running into my way, pissing me off. One of them got kicked flat, and his little friend tried to two-call me, as if I'm going to team up with you. I bit the air, sending him on his way. I don't need help. Just stay back. And during all of that, the tenno slowly slunk away, and another Kano spawned out of nowhere. Where do these things come from? They're infinite. I had better things to do. I wanted to track that tenno. I sniffed his footsteps and followed his blood. but quickly got distracted. When I turned to see the Sarah, I also noticed the Carnos, devouring my organs. There wasn't really much I could do, but for some reason I ran in there, attempting to chase them off. They were really getting on my nerve, and I felt as if I deserved this body. I didn't want them eating my friend. I was the only one allowed to eat my friend. I managed to kill a small one, but it wasn't much of a victory. The most annoying ones still stood. And when I checked the slope for blood, it had all dried up. My Tenno was gone. And so I left, went to the pond to drink, and in the water, obviously not learning from the earlier crocodile incident, I spotted food. Lucky for me, it was a giant body drop. These drop on Petites, the server I usually play on. Since there's no AI and like 300 players, it does help out quite a bit. Now I was a solo again, free to enjoy the riches by myself. There was no one to share my time with, or my meal. But I felt rather cold about it. I didn't want to share with anyone. So I waited in my bush, ambushing any small critters that came by, especially the Carnos. I wasn't hungry, just angry. I wasn't in a sharing mood. And I needed to get my bile back up. After eating, I returned to South. This time, not alone. Some smaller Sarahs had joined me, though I didn't feel particularly loyal to them at this point. They sort of tagged along, eating the food that I caught. Though they let me lead, which I appreciated. When I ran, they ran. When I crouched, they crouched. Though there was a sandstorm on the horizon, so we returned to the pond. And these damn Tennos never get the message. One of them was beating up my smaller companion. And now I suddenly felt loyal. I was in charge of teaching these young ones, and though I hadn't been very successful so far, I wasn't going to let a scroungy little Tenno ruin their time, and so I chased it quite far. Even knowing I couldn't catch up, it had a lot more stamina than me. I grabbed the footprints. Tracking is a Cerato's best weapon. That's when I noticed something in the distance. There's some blood here, and on the horizon, more steps. It was doing a loop. Straight back to my youngsters. I have no idea what this thing was playing at. But I have to say, it was a very devious trick. If not for the tracking ability, I might not have noticed. And as I approached, I heard them calling for help and running in my direction. In a moment of, mistake, I accidentally bit one of the small Sarahs that I was with. When I got stuck on their body, I kinda just thought it must have been a Tenno, but maybe I'll try to read name tags next time. Either way, I was back on the trail. But it wasn't gonna be very smart to leave. The sandstorm was rolling in. I kept going till I spotted blood in the bush, and bit. The storm disguised my footsteps nicely, allowing me to sneak up. And now the trail had been refreshed. Another bite, and he would be bleeding well again. After a moment, we discovered an intersection of crossing steps. It was time to return for water. Mine was deathly low. And I had the sneaking suspicion that the Tenno would need to drink as well. Again, my recording unfortunately cut out, but all that happened was I heard him drinking, and I bit the water, and he died. And then we found his body in the water, and we ate it. It was delicious. The storm continued to rage on. But we had laid claim to this pond, and we had plenty to eat, so all was well. Eventually, another little one came along, and though it might have been kind to share, He didn't exactly ask permission, and there were already 4 of us. If he had stolen an organ and ran away, I might not have been opposed. But he just strolled on up and started eating among us. I gave the tip of his tail a little bite. And at last, he understood. Or he tried to understand in his own special way. He survived though. I didn't kill him. I just told him to leave. We already had 4. And he left. Now that the storm was fading, we could finally fill our water up to the top. There's not really any point in having high water during a storm, because it just continues to go down. Sometimes it's easier to just top it off. The screams of this poor baby Tenno alerted us that this rock was very much not safe. I don't know how he just ran in here thinking that all would be well, but all was not well. He was stuck. So I contacted the server staff, and one of them said that they would log on and teleport him out of the hole. It was still heartbreaking hearing his grumpy little chomps and screams. I tried to tell this guy that we own the rock. Again, I didn't want to share or overpack. Even despite my bite directly at him, for some reason, he was socially inept, and he just stood there. I didn't really want to outright kill someone, but I tried to tell him to leave. Eventually, I decided to give his tail a warning bite, but in the same moment, he decided he should just jump in the hole. I have no words. Honestly. I mean, good for him, he killed the Tenno and got a meal. In the end, the staff just teleported him out as well. Well, not as well by himself, because he ate the poor Tenno. It probably wanted to die though, to be fair. For us, it was time to go back to the plains and do what we originally sought out to do. Some hunting. Everyone felt confident, though we did have one member that was quite small. We told him to just run away if things got difficult. The first creature we saw was this huge stego. The second was that absolutely screaming Hera, though he wouldn't be much of an issue. Birds swooped above, and the stego threatened us to stay back. Though none of us really wanted to fight him anyway. One tail smack to the head and it's lights out. We all steered clear. No thank you, Mr. Steg. We were gonna stick to hunting the smaller creatures, excluding the humans. I actually quite like humans. I never attack or kill them. I just watch them. I think they're pretty funny. It's like having a pet. They don't eat meat anyway, so they're not really a threat. They just kind of exist to look at. All was going well until suddenly a Kano charged out of the bushes. It was fully grown. The smaller ones couldn't stand their ground even while roaring, and without roaring, they got knocked flat on their face. Being slower, there wasn't much I could do without being targeted, though I tried to separate them. And then there were 2. Things weren't looking very good, but I still felt confident. I was hoping the smaller ones would follow me to this ledge so we could take cover. I suddenly realized it was a fight for our lives. Everyone took up their spots along the wall, but everywhere you turned, you would catch yet another charge. They were playing smart, moving quickly in between us. I accidentally took a solid chomp out of one of my teammates' faces as well. I'm sure that didn't help. And then, out of thin air, there was a third. At first, I had been mostly ignored, but now all 3 of them were on me. I knew it must mean my teammates had fallen, and so I fought until my last.